This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. My next guests are frequent collaborators who co-wrote the new film Erupcja. Peter O's and Jeremy O. Harris have worked on several films together already. Right now, they're filming each other and they're filming me. Including The True Beauty of Being Bitten by a Tick. It's okay. Well, Harris produced and O's directed, as well as a documentary about Harris's Tony-nominated work for the stage play Slave Play. Harris also stars in the new film Erupcja. He plays Claude, a new friend to Bethany, played by Charlie XCX. Bethany's boyfriend has taken her on a trip where he plans to propose, but he doesn't realize her choice of location, Warsaw, is because of an old fling there named Nell. Here's a clip between Bethany and Nell. Nell speaks first.
So you are getting engaged?
I don't know. That's why I came.
And who is your boyfriend?
Rob.
Rob.
We lived together in London. I found a ring around a month ago, and I knew he was gonna ask me soon because he suggested we go to Paris, and I said, what about Warsaw? The thing is that with him, the earth doesn't shake and volcanoes don't erupt.
Erupcja was made collaboratively, co-written by all of its actors, Harris, Charlie XCX, Lena Gore, and Will Madden. It's currently playing at the Angelica Film Center. Director Pete O's is here. Hi, Director Pete O's.
Hello.
As well as co-writer and actor Jeremy O. Harris. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
How did you and Peter meet?
Well, Pete and I met through a film festival, the South by Southwest Film Festival, which is also ironic because we've now been there with two different movies, which is amazing. But we met there a decade ago.
What attracted you to Jeremy as a friend?
I invited him to a feedback screening of my first feature, and he gave really good notes.
What kind of notes do you remember?
He said that autism is real. Which I love as a note. And that just became a friendship that happened sort of peripherally. We would cross paths. He produced a play in LA that I came to see. I also got to see Slave Play when it was off Broadway. And we would see each other at film festivals as we were both sort of making things in parallel. And then this beautiful moment came when I got a text message from this filmmaker, producer, director, Chris McCarble, who I had worked with, and he was producing the documentary about Slave Play that Jeremy was directing. And they said they were looking for an editor. And I texted back a picture of the ticket stub and playbill from when I had seen Slave Play 4 years earlier.
Oh, that's awesome. What attracted you to working with Pete as a collaborator? You can be friends, but then you have to take the next step is like, hey, do you want to work together?
No, I mean, I was really nervous. I mean, it was really cool that this person that had been like a peripheral friend, like we weren't like super close after we met at South by. We met and we enjoyed each other's company and we had a couple good hangs, but I went immediately into grad school and locked down. And so people I knew from my LA life, from my life as a film critic, I sort of put in a different box and was trying to build out this life as a playwright. And when this opportunity came back around to work with Pete, I didn't know how akin we were, how alike our sensibilities were until we were sitting in front of the edit bay and I would say, well, what if the color was blue would come out of his mouth? And it was like we shared one mind, you know? And he also gave me permission, a permission that I felt like I didn't have access to actually have fun, to play in making a movie, because I think that the joy of play, the joy of discovery and creativity was the engine inside of all the things I was doing before I went to grad school. But then the minute I became professionalized, that sense that I had the license to play, it felt like that license got revoked. And he reminded me that for an artist, that license is never revoked, or it shouldn't be.
How would you describe that sensibility that the two of you share, Peter? Do you like Pete or Peter?
I like Pete.
Okay, thanks.
All good. I respond to both. I was born Peter. Gosh, it goes in all different directions. We definitely have a similar sense of humor. We also are really different, but like he is a Gemini. I'm a Sagittarius. He believes in the astrology. I don't. But all these things like complement each other so well. And I think we just both have a desire to subvert, a desire to challenge systems, a desire to ask big questions. with confidence, and to not be afraid of moving towards the unknown, to want to know what's underneath that rock when you lift it up. And to have a person who is thinking that way and is to, fear is so human. It's like we feel that, and to look over at somebody else who is also feeling afraid, but it's not stopping them from moving forward, helps give me the confidence to keep moving forward too. And as we move towards the unknown, which is life, as we move towards the unknown, which is each creative project where we're not sure if it's going to work, it feels so good to have a partner a partner in crime, as you're breaking rules, as you're doing the things you're not supposed to do it with somebody.
Where did you get that idea of play? Why is that important to you?
I made a movie the normal way. We're told many a thing, and we don't know how the world works yet. And we're dreaming, and we're looking outward, and we're looking at the paths other people go down, and we're trying to make sense of it. And what I found is when I got to this supposed destination, that it wasn't really for me. I don't know who it is for, but it wasn't right. And I got existential. I said, why am I doing this? Why am I making movies? This is the dream I've had. This is this thing that I've committed so much time and energy towards, and it's not feeling good. And I looked back inside myself, into my past, and I saw that the reason I'm doing this is because it was fun to do when I was 15 years old. And I kind of believe that's why all of us who are on these creative paths are doing it, because there was a time when it was pure and it was joyful and we felt free. And I wondered, as a professional, can I still do that? Mm-hmm. And what if I made all decisions based on what I would do if I was 15? And if that worked, then I'm so free. Then I have unlocked literally everything.
I know you went to fancy pants school, but did academia sort of steer you away from this idea of play?
I think success did, right? I think that having a sense of play and wanting to write a play for my friends that would thrill my friends and thrill me, that then went off Broadway and then went to Broadway, then the West End, then all the Tonys. Yeah. It immediately puts you in a space where people are like, great, now you do this. Now you're Kenneth Lonergan. Now you're August Wilson.
Right.
Now you're Tracy Letts. You can only do plays that look like them in this kind of space. And and you also feel I don't want to lose this opportunity. Oh, should I write my big family drama? And again, this is no shade on family drama. I feel like anytime I mention another playwright, people are like, so you hate them? And I'm
no, I understand. Things happen around a dining room table, but you don't always have to write around a dining room table,
exactly,
right?
Yes. And you can write things that look different, act different. And also you don't have to be worried about whether or not the thing you're going to make is going to make money if you're doing it for just your friends.
Yeah.
And I think that the burden of success made me feel as though if I wanted to have the opportunity to keep working with my friends, I would have to only do things that would pay us a lot of money. I could only do things, and the more that burden sort of compounded, the less exciting the work became for me, because it became more safe when I started thinking that way. It was all the rough edges had to go away because I couldn't fail. And what was so great about reconnecting with Pete is that he reminded me that I actually like jumping out of planes without a parachute. I actually think that my best work comes when I don't fear failure.
I'm speaking with director Pete O's and co-writer and actor Jeremy O. Harris about the new film Erupcja. It's screening now at the Angelica Film Festival. It sounds like you direct films like you did when you were 15.
Mm-hmm.
What do kids understand about making movies that gets lost along the way?
They're so pure, they're so present, and they're so connected. As things get bigger, they become less connected. That's what happens. And I really believe that the meaning of life is human connection. Mm-hmm. Getting together to make something, to creatively problem solve, to tell stories is an act of empathy. You're putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. All these activities are so valuable to us as humans, and all the capitalistic mechanisms that come into place only get in between that. And I like sort of just reject it. I'm like, there must be a way to go straight to heaven. We do not have to go through HE double hockey sticks to get there. I really don't think that's I think a lie that we're told.
It's actually funny because it's actually like part of the way that you play, and I'm assuming you played when you were 15, comes from such a sense of being raised well. And I think another thing that's really great about it, because like we always played pretend with kids, and there were kids that you liked playing pretend with and kids you didn't, right? There were the kids who were like, and actually now I have all the superpowers, and you're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with them. And they're the kids whose parents let them eat too much sugar and didn't tell them no. And one of the great things about this process is that Pete really has control of being like, who's going to make this fun, who's going to be fun to play pretend with, right? He invites well-behaved people to be around you, which is also something that like isn't always true of being on a film set, right? A lot of times badly behaved people get affirmed just because part of their pretend has a sparkle to it. And he has created a space where everyone is having fun playing pretend because like there's a sort of like no bad people rule. I'm very self-conscious of the fact that the last time I was here I used bad words. So
you remember that? Okay, we had to like dump out, like we ran out of dump buttons initially.
I didn't know there was like a limited number.
I told you use your church mouth and that seemed to straighten you out, but
so we're doing it right now. Yeah, I think that it's really a phenomenal thing that also is like at the spine of why making these films feels so good is that like you get to spend 2 weeks with like a lot of great people who only care about having fun and telling a great story together and getting to the end of a great story together. But you start the story not knowing where you're going to end up. So it's like you've already gone somewhere new, but now you've been on a great road trip of imagination with people.
How was the story initially pitched to you, Jeremy?
Well, I was there for the conception. I mean, the original, the seed of the idea was Pete was living in Warsaw. Pete was dating someone in Warsaw. I had not been to Warsaw, and I had not met this person he was dating in Warsaw. So he said, I want to make a movie in Warsaw so you can see the life I've been living in Warsaw. And I was like, great. So there was one movie that was going to be this movie in a house, and it was going to be about people who were studying religion, theologians. And I liked the idea of this theologians movie because I liked saying theologian. Theologian, theologian, theologian. It's a great word. And then we ran into a friend named Oliver Jimenez, a director who made a movie called History of Sound. And he told us the story of when he was in Warsaw, because Pete had said, I live in Warsaw. He's like, I was in Warsaw a decade ago, and I got stuck there for a month because in Iceland, a volcano erupted, and volcanic ash meant that no airplanes could fly out for a month. And Pete had been living in Iceland a decade ago, and that's when the movie shifted to be maybe about girls and volcanoes.
Hence the title.
Mm-hmm.
How much of the script was written on the first day, Pete?
So the process that I use, it definitely starts with a location. It starts with these actors who become collaborators, writers, through conversations with them about what kind of roles they want to play, what's going on in their lives. It's really just almost like a therapy session with each of them. And then from those conversations, I make half of an outline. We do not know what the second half of the story is. And we show up and we shoot the movie in order, living the story as we make it.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we write the dialogue the night before, the morning of. We shoot 3 scenes a day. Each day we shoot another 3 scenes. We shoot for essentially 6 days. We take a day off. We think about what we've done. And then we figure out what the second half of the movie is. We think about all these things we've learned, all these characters we've come to know. And we figure out what are they going to do next.
What was eye-opening about this process for you?
I mean,
because you are a writer.
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of it was, one, it helped me remember that this was in many ways my process. Mm-hmm. You know, part of the beauty of writing at a school like Yale School of Drama is that you get to see which players you want to play with, you know, and you get to write towards them. So most of the plays I wrote in school, I wrote towards Amanla Jahava, towards Moses Ingram, towards, Louisa Gummer, all these amazing actors that were in my community who I got to say, like, I see what you can do every day. Let me make you sparkle a little bit more. That's one part of it with these processes. But also it made me think about film as film as praxis, right? As a like film as a way of life. There's a filmmaker that Pete and I both really love named Hong Sang-soo, who also has this sort of meditative relationship with making a movie. He makes like 3 movies a year. He like wakes up at 5 a.m., writes the script for the movie. Most of the movies have the exact same meditation. They're about like men who are not good with women, women who are not good with men, and people sitting at a bar drinking and talking about it, right? And I think that like through each of his movies, he gets closer and closer to why that's an obsession of his. In the same way that I think Pete gets closer and closer to like what it is about the life he's living now, that makes like the camera the mode by which he wants to like process it. So each movie you get some new peek into Pete's psychology, even though he's making it collectively. And like filmmaking as praxis, filmmaking as like sort of psychotherapy becomes this really fun thing to look at. And it's very eye-opening about just like how everyone's doing that, no matter how big or small the budget is. It's just sometimes like, you know, when you're really there with the person, you feel like you go on the journey with them in a way that like when there's like 15 PAs between you and the director, right, you don't really know exactly what they're processing. It's like more, you don't have as much access to it.
I'm speaking with director Pete O's and co-writer and actor Jeremy O. Harris about their new film, Erupcja. It's now screening at the Angelica Film Center. Let's listen to a little bit. Erupcja is a Polish word for eruption. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And we talked about how this eruption happens, this volcano. It keeps your main character stuck in Warsaw. Let's hear a clip that explains why. It features you and Charlie and your co-star Lena Gore as Nell. Nell speaks first.
Crazy coincidences happen.
Okay, like what?
A volcano erupts.
Excuse me, I don't think I'm following. What?
So the first time we met, that volcano in Iceland erupted. I was 16 and I was here on a school trip and the volcano erupted, so I got stuck here for a month. It was amazing.
Yeah, and it was so dark all the time because of all the ash in the sky.
Damn, okay.
Then we saw each other again around a year later, and that volcano in Chile erupted.
Cordon.
And then after that, it was the wolf in Ecuador and Tal in the Philippines.
So did something happen this time, or?
Etna, 2 days ago.
So you're saying you're like magic?
We like to joke that we're making it happen.
What's the joke? Volcanoes kill people.
When did the central theme of eruptions become clear to you, Pete?
I mean, the idea of the volcano came in that serendipitous way of just this connection to Warsaw and this connection to Iceland. And I knew that volcanoes is like a ripe metaphor. But because I like when movies feel alive, and life is the unknown. It is moving towards the unknown. These are all the reasons why I'm like, okay, starting production where we don't know how it's going to end, because this is like method filmmaking. We are living, we are breathing, and so is the film. And so as we're moving forward through it, we are ready for things to make sense when it's ready for it to make sense. Etna erupted during the shoot. It was the second day of shooting, and we suddenly got an alert on our phones that Etna had erupted. That's why Etna erupts in the movie.
Yeah.
And so we're like, this is magical. This is amazing.
That's amazing.
We thought we had to use like visual effects or something. I mean, the movie is very small, but we were like, we'll figure it out. We'll beg, borrow, and steal until we can make a volcano, and then
it erupted.
And then we got these gifts from the movie gods, and those come in big and small ways constantly.
Oh, it's giving me the chills when you talk about that.
And then I don't even want to like spoil the end, but
Don't spoil the
like,
end.
no, but like discoveries keep happening by sort of like deciding to go, deciding to get together, deciding to show up as presently as possible. Constantly, there are gifts from the gods.
yeah. I mean, I think like one thing that isn't spoiling anything about the movie, but does talk about how like the engine of this movie is magic, is coincidence, surprise, and that can only happen if you're open to it. Has to be like you telling the story of why we have a narrator.
So you haven't heard it in either of the clips so far, but we made this movie in Warsaw. This movie is Polish. Part of the excitement to me was to make a foreign film, to make a movie that's in another language. I was just curious about that experiment. And so as we were making the movie and we get to post-production and I'm still discovering, I'm still moving towards the unknown, trying to help the movie reach its final form. Eventually there becomes this idea to add a voiceover, sort of like a very French New Wave thing, kind of like Jules and Jim. And so that voiceover became an idea to explore, and so I started writing voiceover, and I would write in English, and I would use Google Translate to put it into Polish, and I would use the Polish Google Translate voice as the temp throughout this movie, and that version is what we actually sent to the Toronto International Film Festival when we submitted it, and that's what they first programmed. But then we're still needing to replace that voice. Like, we want to have a human be the voice, and so it became this little bit of a journey to find who that should be. First, we found this Polish actor who did a wonderful job and had a beautiful voice, but it was almost too beautiful in a way. It was too correct, too polished. Then we used the interpreter who works at the American Film Festival, which is this wonderful film festival in Poland, which is what first brought me there. Yeah. And I've gone there 5 years in a row, and every time Tomek is my interpreter. But his voice again wasn't quite right. So then we went back to our drawing board, and me and the other producers are like, who else do we know that's Polish? And one of our producers, Luke, has a friend who's Polish who has a stepdad. And his stepdad lives in Poland, and we ask the stepdad to record the voiceover. He just records it on his phone, he sends it over, and to me it's perfect. I love this voice. This is exactly the right texture. I show it to our Polish collaborators. They tell me it sounds like this thing called a lector, which is when films are brought into Poland to do the dub, they don't have a bunch of different actors do all the different characters. They just have this one man who just says all the characters' lines over top the whole movie. And this is this thing that they all grew up on, and so I got excited that this idea that I had stumbled across also felt connected to the Polish culture. And so we do that voiceover, and we finalize the film, and it feels great. And we finally go to Poland in November to premiere the film to Polish audiences, and I finally get to meet the stepdad. He comes to the screening. He's this lovely man named Jacek. He's in his 60s, I think, and he comes and introduces himself, and he's so sweet. And he tells me that 20 years ago he had a stroke, and he lost his ability to speak. And it's taken him all this time to regain his voice.
We'll discuss that after the show in just a moment. We only have about a minute left. Jeremy, how would you describe this experience working with Pete, writing this script, and then the final production?
I mean, it's been one of the great privileges of my life to rediscover play with Pete. I think that to have the chance to remember at 35 years old that I'm not put on this earth to just completely enrich myself by what I do, but also to enrich myself with material, right? But to enrich myself with experience is a thing that I'm happy I remember now and didn't have to find at 70, right? This has been one of the richest I've ever felt as a young artist.
I've been speaking to director Pete O's and co-writer and actor Jeremy O. Harris about their new film, Erupcja. It's screening now at the Angelica Film Center. Thank you for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having us.
And that is all of it. I'm Allison Stewart. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you. We'll see you back here next time.